And are you refreshed? Good. Now what?
I started this morning thinking that I really wanted to come up into the chair. But I didn't raise my hand at first because I thought to myself, I'm not an opening act, I'm a finale. What I want to talk about is what Esther does and how she does it, and how someone like me or anyone else here could try to learn how to do that.
Well, it really is what we teach all day, every day, because without exception, you are all extensions of this non-physical energy. And without exception, non-physical energy is flowing to you. So the question really is about, how do I get into a reliable receptive mode? And the answer to that is practice being there. The question is, how do I translate energy? How do I find a consistent stream of energy that is so identifiable and undeniable that I can translate it? And the answer to that is want it and expect it, and then practice being in the receiving mode. Esther did not have an intention for this as such. In fact, if she had known that it was going to lead to this, she would have made sure it didn't, because she saw this as something weird. But she was born a teacher and an uplifter. And once she was guided to meditate and the connection was made that was undeniable, then it just unfolded. We think the main factors that helped Esther were that she wasn't trying to do something, and so she wasn't keeping track of whether she was doing it or not. She and Jerry meditated for 9 months with no intention of anything other than the sweet taste of that alignment. That's all she was reaching for, that feeling of detachment and that free-floating feeling of being resistant-free. That's what she was hooked on. And because that's what she was reaching for and finding, then at her point of readiness, she had some advantage for the unfolding that you're describing, in the sense that Jerry was the one full of the questions. Earlier, we were talking about how there is a question and an answer that are different vibrations. So if you're the one asking the question and you're also the one wanting to receive the answer, you can't be in both places at once. So there has to be some definition between when you are asking and when you are receiving. And most people are too impatient for that. They stand in a vibrational attitude of asking and then wonder why they can't receive. Where with Esther, she was in the vibrational attitude of quieting her mind, period. So Jerry was doing the asking and we were doing the answering, and Esther was doing the receiving. So that is something very fundamental in someone having a successful opening, is that you want to be clear what phase you're in. You could let life help you to identify all of your questions and just keep identifying them, and then you could sit with the intention of relaxing and allowing your vibration to rise, and it always will, and then at appropriate moments the insights will come. There are a lot of people that receive that don't necessarily do what someone today called it channeling. Esther never liked that word because it meant so many things that Esther doesn't see herself doing. She would say to us, Abraham, why are they lying? Because they're describing an experience that is so different from mine. And we said, everybody's having their own unique experience, and you will too. So don't try to mimic anyone. Just establish your relationship with your source energy, as you're doing through meditation, and then just pay attention to your moments of alignment. And when you find yourself in that receiving mode, that's when you want to turn your attention toward it and allow that vibration to gain some momentum.
I've been meditating every day for 8 months, and I've made it a really good habit. And I usually do it towards the evening at night, closer to bedtime because of my schedule. And it's been an evolving thing where I need to try to quiet my mind, because I know you said in other times that that's what you were told to do. And So I try to quiet my mind, but my mind is often racing at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, it's more difficult to quiet your mind because you've asked it to be active all day long.
Mm-hmm. And I think I've gotten to a place where I know what I'm reaching for. And
what is it?
Well, to me, it feels like the edge of sleep, but I don't want to fall asleep afterwards. I want to be able just to relax, and whatever flows through my head is okay and not judge
What you're
it.
reaching for is the edge of clarity. You're shutting down resistance. You're not shutting down reception. And sleep is sort of shutting everything down. So that could help. You're wanting to quiet your resistance while you stay alert to clarity. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
So think about the times when you most want to go to sleep. Isn't that to sort of recover from resistance? To bring a long day to an end, or we know you're seeking refreshment, but make the distinction, feel the distinction between wanting to sort of escape from physical and wanting to leap toward non-physical. Feel the difference between wanting to be free of confusion and wanting to be full of clarity. This connection to source that you accomplish through meditation is not like sleep. It's like fresh air. It's like brightness and newness and wholeness and fullness and eagerness. You see what we're getting at?
I brought up the description of edge of sleep because before I was really focused, focus on your breath, breathe in, breathe out, and then it slowly became, that kept my mind racing when I was actively thinking, breathe in now, breathe out now. So I'm thinking...
But it's actively thinking about something that isn't much thought. Those are not very active thoughts. Those are not thoughts full of resistance unless you're afraid you'll stop breathing.
But it's hard to stay on that subject. But when I thought about just breathing naturally and feeling how good it feels and feeling how relaxing that is, that got my head then I felt my whole energy feeling relaxed and what I think is receptive.
Well, you would know. And so our question to you is, do you find yourself in that receiving mode or do you fall asleep?
Sometimes I want to just go to sleep, but then other times...
Then that's a different intention, isn't it?
Okay.
We would not utilize meditation as the pathway into sleeping.
Okay.
We would use meditation as the pathway into more receiving. Sleeping is sort of shutting down receiving. And meditation is opening the pathway to more receiving. Can you feel the difference?
Yeah. So how do I do that with my meditation? How do I...
What's happening in the morning that you can't do it then?
I have to get to work.
So you have shortage consciousness.
Yeah. I teach a class in the evening, so I get home really late, and then I often have to get up really early to meet with my...
But if someone said to you, your meal is at... What time do you have to be at work?
It varies throughout the week. It's sometimes 10, sometimes I don't have to be there until the evening to teach my class. So it's just...
Well, let's say someone said to you, you get one meal a day and it's at 7 a.m. It's at 7 a.m. And you'd say, I can't be there. And we think after a while you'd make the time.
So I should try doing it in the morning.
It's just to your greater advantage.
Yeah.
For these reasons, during the sleep state, resistance slows way down. So you are at your least resistant state when you first awaken. That's a tremendous advantage because the whole point of meditation is to release resistance. And so if you start at your least resistant state and then you focus on your breathing, you'll get into that state of receptiveness, but you won't be tired and wanting to go to sleep. You'll be awake and ready to receive. Feel the difference? You're doing extremely well, and your meditation is not ineffective. We don't mean that. But you're asking us, and so that would be a really big difference to you.
And I don't want to put it on a timeline or feel like this isn't working, but I know from the story.
Well, you don't have to do that. You don't have to put it on a timeline because this is what's happening. Your inner being will meet you anytime anywhere about anything. We're not on a schedule. But your resistance has ebbs and flows. And there are times that you are less resistant than others. And so let yourself be on that kind of schedule. When am I in my most receptive mode? Because you see, you're taking meditation into what we consider to be the greatest purpose of it. When you release resistance, your vibration will rise. And when your vibration rises, there's a blending between you and you. And when there's a blending between you and you are then, and only then, your wholest of whole selves. That's really what you're reaching for. And so the insight you're looking for, the answers to the questions you're looking for, all the things that you said and that we can feel you're looking for are there. Some might say it's just keeping the odds up. Others might say it's just logical. We would say all of that. We're not asking you to look for a time schedule. We're asking you to look for a path of least resistance schedule. And we know for sure the path of least resistance schedule is at the beginning of the day, not at the end of the day. And it can be whenever you want it to be. We're not asking you to set an alarm and meet us somewhere. We'll be there.
I didn't mean like more evening. I meant like in terms of development or seeing progress or seeing something happen or hearing stuff. I've been doing this for 8 months. How can I know?
What do you mean then? What do you mean when you say, I don't want to be on a schedule?
Well, because I've heard your story before. You said it took you 9 months before you heard Abraham. So I'm thinking, well, I'm at 8 months, but I don't want to put like a timeline on it. So how can I judge my progress or feel like I'm doing this?
You can't compare yourself to Esther because she was meditating every morning. So if you want to use that comparison, you're at no months.
Okay. All right.
But don't use that comparison. Your desire is strong. Hers was not. What anybody else is doing doesn't have anything to do with what you're doing. It's just the gap between what you desire and where you are. And we want to soothe you with every word. We don't want to scold you or adjust you or change you. In other words, everything that we're offering you is just simple response to the question you ask. How can I be more effective at this really important, good-feeling thing that I desire? How can I be more of who I am more of the time? And so this being the receiver of your inner being, some people call it channeling. We call it inspiration. Some call it intuition. Basketball players call it being in the zone. Athletes often call it that. There is so much blending that is evidenced. And humans, when you see someone who has practiced that blending for some time, you usually see masters at their craft. Because the more blended they have been, then the more inspired they have been to the path of lesser and lesser resistance or more allowance to whatever it is that they are wanting. But it's really an individual journey. You're not in competition with anyone.
Okay. I guess I probably already know the answers, but how can I see, what signs can I look at and look for development or progress or things like that?
Is there a science of emotional awareness?
Probably not when I'm falling asleep. But yeah.
Is there a science of vibrational frequencies? Is there a science of vibrational compatibility? Oh yes, everything on your planet is like that. That tuning my radio dial, setting my receiver at the same frequency as the broadcaster. It's that science. It's the science of frequency. But in physical human terms, you wouldn't call it so much a science as you would call it an emotional awareness. And so your emotional awareness will teach you the science. Because when it feels really good, you're really tuned in. When it doesn't feel so good, you're not so tuned in.